Good morning and welcome to today's show. Before we begin, apologies because I'm trying to make the recording while having a full house. So there's going to be noise bleeding in from the background. Because I have a full house, I don't have my trusty recording space available, so I'm just having to make do. So apologies for the noise pollution that comes in through the microphones. Okay, so where are we? Okay, we're still on how to deal with stale offers in your CRM. And if you're listening to the podcast for the first time, then this is what you've missed out on. In our prior conversations, we've been able to establish that if you have stale offers in your CRM, then the proper thing to do is to sort through them. The goal of sorting through them is you want to find out which of your contacts are dead. When I say dead, I don't mean dead like physically dead. I mean business opportunities that are not going to go anywhere. So we need to sort out the dead leads, the dead contacts. We also need to sort out the contacts that you guys are just in that vague continuation loop with. Where you're still calling up people to say, I'm just calling to greet you, your boys are loyal, we they hail, how's the family, how elections, so excuse me, and all those pointless conversations that are neither here nor there, don't move the business relationship forward. And then finally, we are having conversations and we're trying to sort through so that we can get to those leads that are promising, excuse me, those leads that are promising, and those are the people that we could end up doing business with in the future. So I think that's what we tackled 2 days ago. Then we've also established that to manage these conversations, you need a CRM. And so because of that, the case study that we're using, that's Mr. Philip Nixon, who is a real life realtor, who was a participant at one of the trainings that I did, I think 3 or 4 years ago, for a real estate firm here in Abuja. So we're able to establish that Mr. Phillips needs a CRM for his business. And because of that, everybody else, and by extension, that's you listening to the podcast right now, you also need a CRM. And that applies whether you are in private practice as a lawyer, or as an architect, or as a carpenter, or as a tailor, or even as a nail technician. You need a CRM. No matter how simple, no matter how complex, no matter how manual, no matter how digital. I think in yesterday's episode, I think I gave the example of how the nail technician who works in the general market, whether it's Alaba market or Gariki market or Balogo market or whatever, at the very least, she needs to use her smartphone, because everybody has an Android smartphone these days, and use a simple digital CRM, which is a calendar, and put it there that Mrs. Kemi is scheduled for Friday at 9 a.m. and Mrs. Balogun is supposed to come in at 10, and Mrs. Risi is supposed to come in at 11. Or else she's going to schedule 4 people who will come in at 9 a.m. and each of them have other things to do, and that's going to be that's a huge scheduling conflict to clear up. So everyone needs a CRM, no matter how simple, no matter how complex, no matter how manual, no matter how digital. So for detailed discussions of this, check the 2 prior episodes, the episodes that came before this one. So if this is your first time of listening to the show, don't worry, this is not going to be a long episode. So when you're done, go back and listen to the other 2. They're not long either. I think one was a 7 or 8 minute episode, the other one was maybe a 15-minute episode, and you'll be caught up to speed. And after you're done doing that, if you're still curious, you can use the keywords or the terms that are used in the podcast episodes and search using your podcast player. So, for instance, those of you who use, let me see, those of you who use Pocket Cast, for instance, Pocket Cast has a search function. iTunes also has a search function, and Spotify also has a search function. So if you search within the podcast using the key terms, you'll be able to find more episodes where I deal with these sorts of things. So if you check and you search CRM, you're going to see older episodes from the over 600 episodes that we have on the podcast so far, where we spoke about all things CRM, and that should be enough there to whet your curiosity. So today we're going to look at an actual case study. Remember that we're dealing with a real life person, Mr. Phillips Nixon, but he didn't send in this question. I'm just using that because I know he's a real life listener, and I like to use plenty of examples so that you guys get the gist of what we're talking about. Also, so that you can see that this is not theory, it's not something abstract, it's something that applies to your business and applies to every other person's business. Even if you happen to be a brain surgeon listening to this podcast, pay attention. From how we apply the things to Mr. Phillips, you'll be able to see how it applies to your brain surgery practice as well. Okay, so now remember, we're looking for dead leads, we're looking for people that are stuck in loops, and we're looking for people who are promising. So right now, let's pretend that we've looked through the CRM and that Mr. Phillips has a CRM, and we have found a few contacts that look promising. On the face of it, looking at the CRM, it looks promising. The reason why it looks promising is because we have looked at the CRM and we found some notes that we've made. So remember, your CRM can be simple, complex, can be manual, it can be digital. In this case, let's pretend that Mr. Phillips is just using the calendar function on his Android phone, or maybe he's using a note like Evernote or OneNote. Let's pretend that it's one of those two. So he has opened up his phone, he has opened up the app, or he has opened up the calendar, and he has seen some notes that he was talking to Ogbuefi Chukwudi. Okay, so he's seen that he's spoken to Ogbuefi Chukwudi, and that based on the conversations that they've had, Ogbuefi Chukwudi is interested in the house. Remember that Phillips is a realtor and he works with Kairos HOF. Kairos is spelled Kairos. And then after that, in capitals, HOF. I don't know why they spell it that way. Actually, I should have asked. It's quite lazy of me because they were my clients, when I delivered the training. So I should have asked. Because I know that Kairos means Lord. So I assume that that's sort of like a Christian connection, but I didn't ask about the HOF. So if you want to check up Kairos HOF, just to see the kind of houses that they offer, if you're based in Abuja and you're curious, see what kind of developments they have, then that's how you can check them out on Instagram. I can't remember what the website is. Okay, so he has checked and he has seen that Ogbuefi, oh gosh, what name did we use? Chukwudi. Okay, he has seen that Ogbuefi Chukwudi is interested in the development projects that they have. Ogbuefi Chukwudi likes the designs of the house. Ogbuefi Chukwudi likes the plot that they have found within the estate. And he likes everything about it, and money is not an object. Well, he still would like to negotiate how much money he has to pay down now, because it looks like they're asking him to pay a lot. But the main thing is he wants to talk to his wife, because his wife has been sponsored by her office, so she has to travel to Lagos for training, and she's going to be away for 3 months. So, Ogbuefi Chukwudi, according to the notes, has told Phillips, our realtor in the past, that look, I want to talk to Madame. I'm not just going to drop 1 million on your house, like that. So let Madame come back. Give me 3 months. I'll call you in 3 months, and then let's have this conversation. And then Phillips is happy, and he says, no wahala, no problem. He makes a note in the CRM. And by the way, I hope you guys see now why a CRM is important. So he makes a note in Evernote, or he makes a note in the calendar, and then he pushes it out. This is the reason why CRMs are important. If you do not do this, then there is nothing to remind you when the 3 months is up. And even if something reminds you when the 3 months is up, there's nothing to remind you that 3 months ago, this is what we discussed. This is what Ogbuefi Chukwudi was interested in. This was the plot number. This was the layout. This was this. These are his interests. These are his likes. And he thinks that his wife might have other opinions about ABC and 1, 2, 3. And this is why you should get in touch. So this is why CRM is important. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so Ogbuefi Chukwudi said, I'll be with you in 3 months. Oh, for those of you who are not Nigerians listening to the podcast, Ogbuefi is a term, eastern part of the country. It's like, gosh, how will I say? It's like a fun way of saying, calling someone a boss. Yeah, let me put it that way. Yeah, it's sort of like calling someone a boss. Traditionally, it's a chieftaincy title, actually. I think Ogbuefi is, what does it mean? Is it the killer of a cow? It's a chieftaincy title. I can't remember what that exact significance means, but basically it's a chieftaincy title. So some people would just call another Igbo man who seems to be of means, if he seems to be a high network individual. So even though technically speaking he's not a chief, we just call him Ogbuefi anyway. It's just a way of hyping people up and making them feel good about themselves. So that's what Ogbuefi means. That's for those of you listening from Ghana or from Scotland or America, wherever you're listening to. So, where are we? Okay, yes, So, now, we've looked at the CRM. These are all the details that we've seen. And unfortunately, Ogbuefi Chukwudi said he was going to get in touch in 3 months. But now, it has been 6 months. What do we do? There are some people who are going to open up their CRMs and say, the guy said 3 months, it's been 6 months, it's been 1 year. Let's just delete and move on. Let's look for the next person. But remember, 2 episodes ago, we said that the way to solve through this is to have conversations with people, because otherwise you're making lots of assumptions. Now, the strategy for the conversation going forward is this. Number one, we're going to apologize. Number two, we're going to take responsibility. And number three, we're going to requalify. The reason why we're going to apologize and take responsibility is this. Whether it was your fault or not is not important. If you try to shift fault, you're introducing negative sentiment into the sales process, and you're making it harder for you to close the deal. So whose fault it was is not really important. The most important thing right now is that Mr. Phillips, who's a realtor, wants to collect his commission. He wants to collect his paycheck. So take responsibility. So even though Mr. Ogbuefi said, I will call in 3 months when my wife is back, so technically speaking, I guess it was his fault, but you just take responsibility and apologize. You say, Ogbuefi, how you doing? It's Phillips. You say, Phillips, guy, I remember. Sorry, I was supposed to call you, blah, 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 blah. And then you apologize, take responsibility. Say, no, Ogbuefi, no problem. I should have called yourself to remind you, but anyway, don't mind me. So in this case, given the context, given the level of rapport that they had before, that was enough to apologize and take responsibility. So given a different context with a different level of rapport, apologizing and taking responsibility might sound different. But in this case, because he and Ogbuefi Chukwudi were cool and they remember each other, that's enough to satisfy, apologize, and take responsibility. So next is to requalify. Now, if you're new to the show, qualification just means you're having conversations with people because you're trying to figure out their wants, their needs, what they're interested in, what they can afford. You're trying to figure out their time frames. That's the whole idea behind qualification. Because if you're not speaking to a qualified person, you're not going to make progress. If Ogbuefi Chukwudi does not want the house, doesn't need it, he's not interested in the house, can't afford the house, and is not thinking of buying a house anytime soon or moving from his current house anytime soon, then this conversation is going to go absolutely nowhere. Now, given the information that we have in the CRM, we have seen that in the past, Ogbuefi Chukwudi wanted the place. He likes it. He's interested in it. He can afford it. But he said he's not dropping that 3M at first because that's too much. So he wants to drop 1 million. But, you guys can talk about that later. But bottom line, he wants his sweet wife to be around so that you guys can have that conversation, because he doesn't like making big decisions without consulting his wife. So that's the information that we have. So requalification in this case would just be to call them up, to have the conversation. Okay, well, not everybody likes calling. Some people like to WhatsApp. But in my own opinion, this is a house. It's a complex deal. It's big money. You shouldn't be pinging back and forth over big money. Just pick up the phone and call, or go to Ogbuefi's office. Book an appointment with the secretary. Go to the office and have the conversation. That's my own opinion. But more on that in another episode. So requalification is just engaging in that conversation, just to try and figure out if there have been any changes since then. We're going to ask him again. So, so sorry, should have called, but I didn't call. I know it's been 6 months. How far, madam? How was her training? It's good, Abi. She made the promotion. So is she back in Abuja now? How are things with family, with the kids? Everything okay? Are you guys still interested in the house? Eventually you have to get straight into it. Are you guys still interested? I say, yeah, of course, I'm definitely interested. I haven't told wifey about it, but we just forgot. And you just ask conversations just to be sure that they still want it, they're still interested in it. The last time we spoke, you said it's 1M that you wanted to drop down, and not the 3 that we're asking. You wanted the 1M. You wanted to drop the 1M first, and then you stagger the payments over 36 months, instead of 24 months. Is that still the same plan that you have? Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's still the same plan I have. So, okay, in that case, since wifey is around now, you guys are still interested. How about I come by the house next week, Wednesday, so that any questions that Madam has for me, we can talk one-on-one. And then maybe after that, we'll now schedule another meeting so she can go to the site. And if everything has been good, Ogbuefi Chukwudi is going to say, perfect. Oh, but hold on. Wednesday, I'm not free. Can you make it Thursday morning? Can you make it Thursday morning? He said. You check your diary. You're fine. You guys agree. And then that's fantastic. You now, when you're done with the conversation, go back into your CRM, in this case, which is the calendar that you're using in your Android phone, and then you just push the date back. But I would advise that instead of pushing it to Thursday, which is the day of the meeting, you want to push it to Wednesday, which is the day before. Make a small note there so that you call Ogwefi Chukudi to remind him, because it's going to suck if you don't send a reminder or don't have any reminder conversations, and then you show up on Thursday morning and his wife is not around, or he forgot to tell his wife, and then that just moves things back another week. So push it back in your CRM, have the reminder call. And I hope you guys see now why all this is important. If you're going to run it from memory, you might forget to do the reminder thing on Wednesday, and you might forget about the meeting on Thursday altogether. These are the reasons why CRMs are important. Now remember, it doesn't have to be digital, it can be manual. It's the same thing. If you use a diary or if you use a file cabinet in your office, it's the same thing. Write it down in the file, write it down in the diary. Now, if you book the meeting, you do the reminder on Wednesday, you have the meeting with Ogwefi Chukudi on Thursday and his wife, and you guys agree for another viewing the upper Monday, so you guys can go to the site so that wifey can see the progress with work and then things like that. Then it looks like this might be good candidates to close the deal. Now, I'm not going to take this case study any further, so I don't keep manufacturing things here and there. But also because we also have two other scenarios to look at in future episodes. That's where we're dealing with dead leads and where we're dealing with people that were stuck in loops. But I hope this has been enough to give the example so that you can see why CRMs are important, and then why it's important to engage in the conversation in the first place. Because if you just assume, Ogwefi Chukudi said, I will call you in 3 months, but you check the CRM, you see it's been 6 months, it's been 9 months, I haven't heard from him, you just delete. It could be any number of things. He might still be interested, but he might have forgotten to mention it to his wife, or maybe he mentioned it to his wife, but then he forgot how he stored your phone number, because those things happen. That's happened to me back when I was in my wedding photography days. I called somebody up and she's like, thank God you called. I didn't remember how I stored your phone number. I've been thinking, how am I going to reach this guy? We've changed the wedding date, blah blah blah. And that's one episode that ended up quite well. So those things happen. Somebody likes you, you guys are vibing, they're interested, but everybody has like 2,000 contacts stored on their phones, and so we all come up with weird ways of storing it. So it might have been stored on the phone as housing agent 5 or housing agent 6. So Wefi Chukudi opens up his phone and then he sees housing agent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he's like, which one to call? Because of course he doesn't want to call the wrong guy and then start conversations that quite frankly he's been avoiding. And you could have been stored as real estate agent 6 in his phone, and maybe he has real estate agents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you never know. Don't assume. Look through the CRM, do the work, get in touch, and manually start sorting through. Oh, by the way, I'm assuming that we have realistic numbers here, because if it's a few dozen, maybe 100 people, sorting through might not be a problem. But if we're talking maybe thousands of offers, then you actually have much bigger problems than what we are talking about here. Basically, you have real self-management problems, real time management problems. You have to see another specialist, and maybe not a sales specialist. But anyway, it's been over the 15-minute mark, so let me just bring it to a close over here. And that's how we're going to handle this scenario where we run into someone who is possibly interested. And that is what requalification is. We're just trying to figure out, have there been any changes? Are you still interested? Do you guys still want it? Do you guys still need it? The payment terms that we agreed on the last time, is everything still cool? Okay, so if everything is still cool, then from my opinion, I think the next step is ABC and XYZ. What do you think? Do you agree? If the person says yes, we agree, then you guys know that you might close the business ahead. If the person says OTO, I don't agree, then it's all the same. You qualify like, oh, I'm sorry, I assume we're all on the same page here. What did I miss the last time? What's new? What has changed? So that's how you handle the conversation. So thank you very much for listening to today's show. And tomorrow we will move to... Okay, let me see. Okay, we did promising right now. Anyway, I haven't decided which one. Tomorrow we'll move on to another one. Either dead leads, dead contacts, or people that you're stuck in communication loops with.